Hi, I'm Tony. Welcome to Sew Lounge. Today I'm going to teach you how to sew in a hook and eye. Now, hooks and eyes are the little metal hooks and loops that show up at the top of zippers. So if you don't know what I'm talking about and you've got a straight skirt in your closet or a dress with a zipper in the center back seam, odds are it's got a hook and eye at the very top of it to hold that seam together above the zipper. Now, I made this skirt a while back and I didn't put the zipper in exactly in the right place. So there is a big gap up at the top of the zipper. I'm going to put in a hook and eye to hold this gap closed so that it looks nicer when I'm wearing it. To get started, you're going to need some supplies. You will need a pack of hook and eyes, some thread. I'm going to be using white because I want it to contrast against the fabric so that you can see what I'm doing, but ideally you'd want to do something that matched the background color of the fabric. Thread snips, as always, and hand sewing needles. Now, while I usually like a longer needle, in this case with the hook and eye, I'm going to go with a shorter needle. This is just over an inch long. I usually like an 1.5 inch long needle. It's a little bit longer for most sewing projects, but for this, because we've got to go in through these little tiny loops, it's easier to do that with a shorter needle. When we are threading our needle, we're going to hold the thread in one hand and grab that thread tail, pull it up to our shoulder, and then that's the length of thread we are going to cut to thread the needle. Go ahead and thread your needle however you like to do that. And we're only going to be sewing with a single thickness of thread, so you can double it up, but don't put a knot in both ends. Just put a knot in one end, however you like to do that. Now let's go in for a closer look. Top of my zipper, I put in my zipper a little too low and didn't cut off the top, but that's okay because I can add a hook and eye and it'll fix it up and hold it together so that it looks nicer. The hook and eye is going to be sewn on the inside of the garment, and we want the two sides to touch each other but not overlap, so they don't have to overlap. We're just going to do it that way. Now, these are hooks and eyes. These I bought at Dritz recently because, well, I think I did. This is what the packaging looks like now. So you've got your little hooks and your loops in there. I'm going to open one of these up and get them out. I need some scissors for this. There we go. And I'm going to just pull that out. There's my loop. Okay, so the loop is tiny, and then there's a little hook. And when you want them to loop into each other, you're going to sew the hook flat to the garment. So the hook will be flat, and I'm going to overlap it a little bit. And then the loop will be on the other side. And you want to be able to hook them. The way you place them is so that, and they're tiny, so it's kind of hard to do this, but let me just loop one into the other. There we go. So you want them to be lying on the garment so they look like this. And we're going to put the loop on one side, the hook, the eye, and then the hook on the other. And ideally you want them to be in the place so that they overlap and close the seam, because you don't want to put this in and still have the seam gaping. You want it to be closed, so you have to place your hook and eye accordingly. So first step, we are going to line up the hook and sew it on first. We're going to attach this part of the hook to the garment. So we want to make sure that it is lying flat and does not extend past the edge of the zipper tape. So we don't want it to be like that where it's extending past. We want it to be lined up so that everything fits nice and tight. So this is the hardest part because it's very hard to hold this little tiny hook and sew at the same time. So to get started, we are going through, I'm just starting through the top loop because it's a little easier to hold it from the bottom. And I'm just going to make some little thread loops around this round metal hole. catching the facing but not going through to the other side of the fabric. And just continue like that. This is why we're using a shorter needle, because when it's a longer needle, you really get stabbed. Okay, so I've got 2 loops in there. I think I can turn this a little bit. There we go. To go around the top of this little hole. And we're just putting in the threads to hold this in place. So you want to kind of go around this little metal loop as we're sewing it. So we've kind of got it secured in place. Let me unzip this and make it a little bit easier. Okay. So we've kind of got it secured in place enough that I can hold it from the hook part and then keep going around this little metal hole here. And keep doing this until it's secure, and I keep stabbing myself in the finger. So be careful you don't do that, because it does hurt, and you can see I've got some stab wounds now. But if you pull the hook down and then hold it this way, that helps prevent those kind of injuries. Okay, so it seems to be pretty well held in place. I'm going to go down along that edge, and then I'm going to go back up through the next metal hole for the other side of the hook. And go around it the exact same way. As I get around to the end of this metal little hole that's holding the hook in place, I am just going to finish it off. I'm just going to catch the fabric down here, make a knot, I'll make a second knot. Oh, I just unlooped it. There we go. Make a knot, and then go back in and make a second double knot so that it holds in place once this is washed. And snip off that thread tail. Now that the hook is all secured with the little stitches, we want to secure this part of the hook against the garment. So I am just going to go underneath the hook through the fabric so that I catch my needle, and then I'm just going to keep doing that to make a loop around the base part of the hook to hold that in place. And then just make sure that when you do that, then you take the thread so it holds this neck part of this loop. And then we're going to go back through underneath and then go under the hook again. And one more time, should just to hold that kind of in place when we fasten it. So that should do it. It's held in place pretty well. You can kind of see that. Yeah. So let's just go back in. I'm just going to catch the edge of the loop and knot it off right there. And one more time. There we go. So now the hook is very securely being held in place. I'm going to cut off this thread loop. and then we will go on to securing the eye. Now comes the part where we have to line up the eye with the hook. You can see that I did not sew that on totally straight. That is fine. Just attach the eye accordingly. We want them to connect to hold this center back seam together. No one's going to see what they look like from the inside, and next time we'll do better, because it's always kind of wonky to try and hold these things. So with the eye, we're just going to overlap the zipper tape just a tiny bit. This is definitely the hardest part to hold because it is so small, and I'm going to do my best. So we're going to start with this top one because that's the one I can see, and it's pretty much exactly the same thing. We are going to be going around, let's go around the bottom to secure this in place as best as we can and not get stabbed. Supposed to be, and then we're going to hold it down so I can sew that bottom loop and hold it all together so I can hold it in place. It's the exact same way that we sewed the top one. So ideally you would be sewing in the same color thread as the background of the fabric, so you wouldn't notice this, but for demonstrative purposes it's easier for you all to see what I'm doing if I am sewing in white. So we're coming around to the other side of this hole, and we are just going to finish this off and tie a knot down here. I'm just going to catch the fabric, go up, make a loop, and then make another one to make a knot. And then I'm going to snip this off. And let's see how we did. Okay, so get those two lined up. It is matched up. Let's zip up that zipper. There we go. Zipper zipped. Hook and eye is done. It is closed at the top of that seam. Look how nice that looks. Well, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So the last step of this, since we've got it hooked, you can see that there's still going to be a little bit of a gap in there. If we secure the eye to the zipper tape here, I dropped my needle again, there it is. It should hold better, and then you shouldn't have that gap because it's not going to be pulling, because it's going to be sewn to the fabric. So I am just going to, just like the other side, I'm going to go under it and then come back up and just make a loop to just hold that in place. Four times to attach that loop to the zipper tape, and then it shouldn't move once we, yeah, it's a lot better. And this is hard to do because everything's moving and it's very small to hold on to. So if you don't want to put in a hook and eye, just make sure you get your zipper up high enough in that seam, and then you won't have to. Unless you really want to. I will admit that I do not always put hooks and eyes into things because I just don't like sewing them because I get stabbed so many times, as I showed you. All right, so this is going to be held in place. You can see that's not going anywhere. I'm just going to put a knot over on this side and finish this off. And let's snip off this thread. Be careful not to cut off the knot. Now, let's zip up this zipper and see how it all looks. There we go. That's as high as the zipper goes. We're going to hook that hook and eye. And from the other side, it's definitely better. Not bad for first attempt. You can see it a little bit, but at least it's not a big gaping hole up at the top. So, good job. Now you know how to hand sew a hook and eye to close the seam above a zipper. Like I said, I don't always do this, but when I've got a big gap up at the top above my zipper, then I have to. As long as you keep practicing, you'll get better at doing this. So don't feel discouraged if it isn't perfectly sewn together and matched. As you can see, mine is not 100% perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. And that's always the goal, to keep improving as we keep sewing. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click like below and subscribe to my channel so you never miss a stitch. And if you've got questions, but no one to answer them, head on over to Let's Talk Sewing for Beginners hosted by Sew Lounge. It's an interactive Facebook group where you can ask all the questions you want and I will get you some answers. I go live in the group on Wednesdays, so check the schedule for the next event. Until we meet again, happy sewing!